Senator Batters, you have a question?
Yes. Would Senator Simons take a question?
I would indeed.
Senator Batters.
Thank you. Senator Simons, you started to go through the list of some of the offenses. The first one you listed, though, you just mentioned criminal negligence. You didn't mention that it's actually causing bodily harm by criminal negligence. And then you said you didn't want to go through them all because that would take too long potentially, but you skipped over sexual assault, kidnapping, human trafficking. Don't you think that those ones are ones that there may be a little bit fewer examples of situations where it would be appropriate to have conditional sentences where those particular offenders would be back in the same communities as the people that they have victimized?
Senator Simons.
And I think, again, because Senator Batters, you're a lawyer and I am not. I've been an observer in courtrooms for a long, long time. In terms of sexual assault, it's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong because I don't have your legal background, that a sexual assault can be anything from a violent, heinous rape to someone exposing themselves in the park. And I think we need to understand that sexual assault, again, covers a whole spectrum of the human condition and of human sin. And it's really important that we not impose a cookie-cutter solution because the sexual assault committed by a rapist who jumps out at you in the parking lot and assaults you viciously is quite different, I think, than the kind of sexual assault of a guy who fills you up in the bar. I don't care to be felt up in the bar. Actually, it's been a long time since it's happened. But you know, I mean, sorry, I went for low-hanging fruit. That was not a tasteful joke, and I apologize. But my point is that there is a wide variety of offenses that can be deemed sexual assault. For kidnapping, I think there's a difference between kidnapping for ransom and custodial interference, which is often charged as kidnapping. And again, I'm not excusing a parent who abducts a child in violation of a custody order, but again, that is a different thing than an armed ransom attempt. So these are all very difficult questions, and I in no way want to minimize the dangers that criminals pose in our society, and I in no way absolutely want to minimize the dangers in domestic situations where people often are trapped by economic and social circumstances, and when justice finally steps in, they need the courts to be there to protect them. I just feel that this particular amendment casts too wide a net.
Senator Batters, you have another question?
Yes. Actually, Senator Simons, what you referred to would probably be indecent exposure. And so for many of these offenses, if it's not appropriate to charge with the more serious offense, as some of these are listed here, the police, the prosecutors, and the courts would deal with them on the appropriate sort of charging basis. And the other offense that you referred to earlier, being unlawfully in a dwelling house, maybe you would recall that that sort of offense actually can be often used when an ex-spouse is stalking and potentially going to harm their spouse, and there's been very significant cases that deal with that. So I think Senator Boisvenu has actually tried to make sure that the type of charges that he's dealt with here are the ones that are the most serious, potentially dealing with domestic violence. And wouldn't you agree that that is the sort of thing that we actually should be worried about, especially dealing with conditional sentences where we could have those people back in the community to hurt those people?
Senator Simons.
And as I have said, I would trust that the responsible members of the judiciary would not give out conditional sentences like Halloween candy. They would be reserved for the very specific fact-based cases where they were appropriate. In no way would I suggest that somebody who breaks into a house and is in the house unlawfully to menace the residents of the house should be treated in the same way as somebody who gets lost in the woods in the winter and breaks into a cabin to not freeze to death.